Have you ever felt like life is just throwing one challenge after another at you, and no matter how much you plan, things still feel overwhelming? If you're nodding along, I'm also nodding, you're not alone. And today we're going to be diving into exactly that: how to keep going when things get tough, and how to manage your time when life feels unpredictable. Welcome to Own Your Time, a channel for small business owners. Get ready to harness your most precious asset, your time, with intention, enabling you to create a life that thrives in simplicity, ease, and joy. If you're new here, I'm Sarah Stewart, a Glasgow-based time management expert, and my approach combines the wisdom of traditional time management strategies with the transformative power of mindfulness. And it's my commitment to help you get more time for the things that really matter. So if you're ready to ditch the hustle culture and overwhelm and instead embrace peaceful productivity, you're in the right place. In each episode, we're going to dive into the key elements of conscious time management, mindfulness, intentional living, and the dynamics of running a small business. So join me as we explore practical strategies to overcome time constraints, manage stress, and make intentional choices that align with your goals and aspirations. If that resonates, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so that you never miss an episode. So in today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you some thoughts on how to keep going when things start to feel difficult. I have been chatting a lot recently with peers, friends, about what my business strategy is as a time management expert for when things get tough in my personal life, and I thought it might make for an interesting video. So I've been navigating some difficulties in my personal life for a wee while now, a good couple of years, and it's a bit up and down, to be honest. And although that maybe sounds a bit cryptic, it's not really my story to share because it involves my kids. And with them now being teens, it's that tricky place where, I basically can't, overshare on their behalf. But as you might expect, these challenges do ripple through into other areas of my life. And a friend had actually shared with me the quote, "Share the scab, not the wound," which I really love. And the idea is that you write about emotional or difficult experiences once you've had time to process and heal, rather than while you're still raw or in the midst of the pain. Now, I don't have a scab yet, and I do find it tricky to talk about some of the stuff going on. I am a chronic oversharer. So again, it's like really hard for me to sort of find that balance. I do peel back the curtain more in my email newsletter. So you can hop into the list at the link in the description box if you want to join and sort of get a little bit more behind the scenes content. Anyway, I find at times, it just gets a bit too much. And as I say, this last few years have been particularly tricky. And it's not helped most recently by the fact that I have agreed to compete in High Rocks, the fitness competition, when it comes to Glasgow next month. I actually recorded a video on how I've been fitting the training for that around everything else that's going on. So I do have more on my plate than usual right now. The other week, I was at the gym warming up on the exercise bike, and the coach, Harry, had asked me how I was, like a real innocent question, just, how are you? And I started to cry. Like, it was really embarrassing. Anyway, I was not in a good headspace, and just like everything felt difficult. Work was difficult, working out was difficult, like keeping on top of the house was difficult. It just, everything felt difficult. But I feel like I've sort of come through that now, that blip. And I thought it might be useful to share some thoughts on where to start if you're maybe not feeling yourself, and some of the things that have served me well over the last week or so. Okay, I'm just going to have a quick sip of my tea. As an aside, I don't know if this will come up the right way around or not on camera, but I really love this mug. It's one of my favorites. It says, "I am effing fabulous." No, it doesn't. What am I like? It says, "I am effing radiant." It says radiant there. This was a gift. I actually don't swear all that often, but I sort of like the message behind it. Anyway, back to the video. So I think firstly, we need to acknowledge that life it's unpredictable. And if you're a small parent, oh my God, I just can't do my words today. If you're a small business owner or a business professional and also a parent, it's very likely that you'll have faced disruptions to your routine, to your schedule. Like no matter how disciplined or organized you are, some things, they are literally just out of your control. A child gets sick, your childcare falls through. Maybe like me, you have a chronic condition or a health concern. So I've got Crohn's disease, and this can impact my plans. There are some days where, really I just don't feel like I've got the energy to work. But what can we do to help? So firstly, I always plan in advance, and I think this can help mitigate the impact of setbacks. Now, I'm using the word setback here loosely. Like, I do believe we are where we need to be, and what might be perceived as a setback or maybe a lack of progress might actually be an important part of your journey. And I think we can sort of take lessons. So with things that come my way like that, I do try and ask myself, what is the lesson here? Like, what is it that I need to learn? But each week I look ahead and I review my commitments. I'll look out, for potential conflicts, obstacles, and I'll sort of check in and decide, do I need a backup plan or not? And I've seen myself in the past where childcare fell through for an event that I was supposed to be going to, and I didn't have a backup plan. So I've learned from that, and that's something that I make more of a conscious effort to consider moving forward. And I also have, so that's sort of like thinking about the week, but I also have my longer term strategy in place. So as well as looking at the days and the weeks, I know what my plan for the quarter is. So I zoom in and out when I'm doing my strategic planning, and I find that really helpful. So the plans, particularly the longer term ones, these are things that I try and do when I am feeling more energetic, when my creativity is at its peak, so that I'm putting these plans in place so that then if I am tired and lacking energy and my creativity starts to wane, I don't need to give too much thought to the plan because the plan is already there. So I've got content mapped out for my time management business. My projects are planned in Asana, which is the online project management tool that I use. And it makes it so much easier having all of this when I do then have periods when I'm struggling. So I can sit at my desk and know exactly what I need to do that day without expending the energy on coming up with a plan in the first place. And I'll also ask myself, what is the minimum that I need to do? So for me, I've got, one-to-one time management sessions with clients I would continue to deliver. There might be workshops that I've promised and so on. So those sort of things, those commitments I would do my best to honour. But I might dial back my presence on social media. I might postpone any networking. So there's different ways that I can dip in and out of the different things that I do. And within Asana, it's like super easy to drag and drop tasks, to a different day. I've been really intentional with the business that I've been building, and time freedom is a big goal of mine. I don't want to be working all the hours on my business, and I've had this front of mind as I've been growing the business. And I also will always still prioritize myself and self-care. So, one thing that's a non-negotiable for me is moving my body. Another is sleep. I think now regular exercise is just very much part of my persona. I find it enhances my productivity, helps to reduce stress. So when things do get tough at home or in work, like I'm still prioritizing exercise. I've got a lot of classes booked out in advance in my calendar with backup slots if needed. And I treat them with the same importance that I would a client meeting. So the concept of backup slots comes from Laura Vanderkam. She is an American author in the time management space, and it's a technique that I've used for my weekly run. So although I've not been, I'm not running consistently. I have periods where I come in and out of running. I did the 10K Great Scottish Run last year, and then I sort of stopped running after that, and I'm now ramping it back up and have been for the last 5 or 6 weeks as I'm training now for High Rocks. But I typically try and commit to myself that I would go out for a run every Wednesday. Knowing that that's then a habit that I want to try and get back into, you can think about creating a backup slot, and this is, a backup slot's not going to work for everything, but this is a great example where I've found it has worked for me. So if you have made commitments to yourself, you put it in your calendar and then you don't follow through with it, this might be a helpful strategy. And it's definitely something that I do as well. That it's so easy, especially with a run, when it's maybe something that I don't want to do. Like, I don't love running. It's very easy just to push it out or ignore that block in the calendar. But the backup slot did help. So my ideal would be to get up really early in the morning, run first thing. And so I was blocking out 6 to 7 in the morning for that. But just in case, for whatever reason, I didn't get up and out in the morning, I also blocked out 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon before the school run. And the process of doing this and having those 2 blocks made it more likely that I would actually get it done. Now, more often than not, I would get up as planned and tick off the run first thing. And the beauty of that was then that I had an hour back in the afternoon that I could do with what I pleased. Now, as I said, this is not like the answer for everything. If you have to create a backup slot for every single sort of task or to do, I think that's going to be overkill. But for the important things, it might be something that you could experiment with. So anyway, back to the list. Along with exercise, sleep is another non-negotiable for me. So I've been prioritizing my sleep hygiene for a number of years now. And despite everything that's going on in my personal life, I actually sleep really well. And good quality sleep and rest is so important. And going back to basics with daily habits like that is really helpful. So when things get overwhelming, I can sometimes then neglect the activities that I know deep down make me feel good. So things like my mindfulness or journaling or, making the effort to get out in nature. These are all things that help keep me grounded. And sometimes I can overlook them, but sticking with it and going back to those basics can be really helpful. Another basic one, but eating well and drinking plenty of fluids is also really crucial. I've been doing my best to eat less processed food, and in terms of the hydration, that is something I am not brilliant at. I do not drink lots of water. I've started taking some Will Powder's rehydration sachets, one every day. I do actually use their protein powder and love it. It's one of the best protein powders that I have had. It does not taste like artificial in any way. I really, really rate it. I also use their collagen too, and have been doing so for years. I can pop some links in the description box if you want to check those out. So yeah, the eating well and drinking fluid has been an important sort of basic habit. And then alcohol is actually something else to consider too. So I am now just over 6 years alcohol free, so 6 years and a month. And I know that if I was drinking, my mental health would not be in a good place. So that's something that you may want to consider too. I think there's also something around flexibility, and as a time management expert, I do advocate for flexibility in our schedules. Our schedules should not be set in stone. We should be able to adapt to changing circumstances. And so when things get tough, this might look like reorganizing our priorities, delegating tasks, pushing out some appointments. It is okay if you need to adjust your plan. Know that that's okay. Take that as your permission slip. I previously wrote an article for Digital Boost on what to do if your plan doesn't go to plan. So that might also be worth having a read. I can put a link for that in the notes as well. And then we can also use some of the more traditional time management strategies. Like one of my favorite tools is time blocking. And I block out my schedule for work and for play. And when I see, the color-coded blocks, I look at, I use Google and I look at it as a week to view. So I can see at a glance if I have sort of balance, across the week. And I also like to try and leave some white space, which allows me to be creative and flexible with the schedule. And having that white space also means, if I'm getting to a day where things have been particularly tough, or, I've maybe for some reason not slept well, or, there's just an awful lot in my mind and I can't focus, having, some white space might actually then allow me to take a step back, make a cup of tea, watch TV for a little bit, or go out on a longer walk with a dog without actually having to then worry about where are all the to-dos going to fit, or where am I going to put everything. So I find that the white space really does help. And there are the odd weeks, even just the other week, I was sort of looking at my calendar and it did feel full, which is not like me. But sometimes there are opportunities that you can't pass up. And so my calendar was more full than I would have liked. And I know that doesn't feel great. So I do make a conscious effort to not feel that way. So that can be helpful as well. Just sort of thinking about how you want to feel, and does your schedule sort of, is it conducive to that? One of the other tips actually that isn't in my notes is just to give yourself a little bit of extra time if you're traveling places, like for the transition. You don't want to have back meetings. So I do try and give myself a little bit of extra time. I find driving to new places and then potentially trying to find parking a little bit stressful. So I always give myself extra buffer there. So that's sort of thinking about hidden time costs. And then lastly, think about your support network. So effective time management, it doesn't need to be a solo effort, a solo thing. You might want to leverage support from others, especially if things are tough. I firmly believe that improving time management can be a game changer for those of us that are juggling lots of balls. And if you want to have a conversation with me about how I might support you in my work as a time management expert or mentor, there's information on my mentoring services on my website. Again, I'll pop a little link in the description for you if you want to have a look. So yeah, why not try experimenting with some of the strategies that I've shared, and let me know in the comments how you get on. And if you're wondering where on earth to start with time management, my time audit workbook is a great resource that you can grab for free on my website, and I'll make sure that there's a link for that available for you too. So thanks for joining me on this episode of Own Your Time. Next time I'm going to be sharing more practical strategies that you can implement to reclaim control of your time and build a thriving life and business. And if you enjoyed the video today, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. leave a comment, say hi. I love hearing from you. And it's really much appreciated as I get this endeavour off the ground. As I said, get access to my free time audit workbook on my website. The link will be in the description, and you can connect with me on social media for additional resources, community engagement, and lots more. You'll find me on Instagram at sarahstewart.co.uk. Until next time, bye for now.